it's Shel from Paper Rock TO Studio, and I'm sharing today another NaNoJouMo art journal page in my Gelli printed handmade journal. And I'm actually going to be doing some Gelli printing. I have these smaller plates, Gelli plates, that I really like to use in my journal. There's a multitude of reasons for that. One of them is they're smaller and I can use them more like a stamp. I'm putting that on an acrylic block, but you don't have to have an acrylic block to do this. You can put them on like a CD case or a small piece of glass that you might have, as long just be sure you don't cut yourself. And then you can put patterns on the plate and paint on the plate and then turn it over and stamp it onto the page. So I'm putting some different colors of heavy body acrylic on there and then using my 2-inch rubber brayer to spread it out. And then I'm going to use some wheel stamps to make my patterns. These two wheel stamps are snowflakes, and this first one, the handle is tight and I can't get it to roll. So I do fix that later. This is a double-sized one and it has bigger flakes. So I decided to try it first. And then I stamp it off on a piece of paper to see what the color and pattern is like. And then I do my ghost stamp on there. And originally I was thinking I would do just a bunch of ghost stamping and it would eventually become a background. But I ended up using them full strength after this one. So you might have guessed, since I'm using snowflakes, that today's prompt is snow. It's actually rain or snow. We had a choice. And I picked snow because I live in Arizona where it never snows. And I remember snow from my childhood. And I think snowflakes are really pretty. So that's the reason that I'm doing snow. So I changed my handle on that one. Now I've got a different handle. I have a few of those in my drawer. And this one will roll. So this is the smaller flakes. And I'm like turning my block around so that I can get that edge right down into the crease of the book. And it works really great. It's really a very good way to add some pattern to the background of an art journal page without actually taking it apart. Another reason I like these small plates is because I am a confessed Gelli printing addict. And if I get out my bigger one and I start making prints, I will just go and go and go. And I'll look up 5 hours later and have 100 prints because I just think it's so incredibly fun. I really could do it all day. So when I'm using these, I'm contained. It's a small project with a small plate, and I can just do it easily that way and be done and put them away. But I am, while I'm doing my background, I'm also creating that piece of paper that will end up being something that I use, and I'll be printing some other papers. So I do print for a while. I'm going to speed up here pretty soon because I'm sure that most of you have seen Gelli printing. If you haven't, these are silicone mono printing plates from Gelli Arts. And this one is a circle. I had an interesting pattern on my rectangle and I wanted to do a cleanup print with a light color, but it wasn't quite dry enough. So I pulled it off and then I had to find a place to put it. And then now I've got my round one out. I believe this is 4 inches round. Now they have some sets of these teeny tiny ones and I would love, love, love to try those, but I really can't afford it right now. But maybe someday I'll get those. They have a hexagon and an oval. I mean, they look so fun. Yeah, they're awesome. I want some. So I've got my round, and now I'm going to just make some more prints onto my background. Excuse me. Have a cough for some reason. I like to use these two smaller plates in conjunction with each other because I think that the curviness of the round print plays off with the rectangle prints, and I like the look of that, so I do that quite a bit. And if you just want a whole printed piece of paper that you can use in some other project, you can just use, you can just do this on a whole print. You don't have to do it inside a journal. If you're doing something like you want to do some papers for a canvas or something, these are very versatile. When I got the rectangle, I thought I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with it, but I just wanted it, so I got it. And then once I had the rectangle and realized how versatile it was, I had to have the circle when they came out with the two circle sizes. I don't have the bigger circle, I just have the smaller one. So that time I was doing a cleanup print. Remember I said I was going to do that, and I'd set my rectangle aside. And you can see the snowflakes, the white paint on the top layer pulled off the snowflake, the leftover snowflake ghosty stuff left on there. And I think that is such a cool effect. I probably like those prints better than the straight prints. The ones where you're pulling off dried paint with another layer of paint. You get interesting patterns, and it's not so in your face. Oh yes, I got out the pink there. I did have all blue. That one side of the paper has a lot of pink, and I can still see it even though I've printed over it. The idea of layering in mixed media is that you're going to get some of the pattern underneath, but still have added pattern on the top, which makes it very visually interesting. But the color of the pink there on that other page was distracting me. So I added some pink on the right side, and now it looks a lot more uniform. At some point I'm going to have to stop doing this. I know that as I'm doing it, but I really don't want to. I tell you, I am a jelly addict. I just want to print and print and print and print. I wish it was my job. I love it. Okay, now I want to get some lighter pattern over the top of it, so I'm just going to use the wheel stamps. And by the way, these are from Stampin' Up. So I tried putting some paint on my little piece of paper, but the paper was too absorbent. It's a piece of printer paper. And so I'm now using my round plate as an ink pad. And this also works great. And I never remember that it does until I do it. And then I'm like, oh yes, every time I try to stamp with acrylic, I should get out the jelly plate. I need to remember that. Okay, so my background's done, and now I've got some other pieces of paper that I'm just adding pattern to. This one is tissue paper from Hazel and Ruby. It has some music and some text. I love the graphic nature of text. I think it looks so cool, but I don't necessarily want you to read it. It's just going to be a pattern, and so I'm putting some other pattern over the top of it and adding some color. And I'm sure somebody's done it, but I've never seen anyone else use their wheel stamps on their printing plates. So it might be a new idea. I don't know. But I'm sure there's somewhere out there, someone has a video out there on it. I've just never seen it. This is a vellum paper, and it already has snowflakes on it, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave that one for later. And then I've got these other 3 scraps of vellum, which who knows what project they're from. Something someday. I've been making cards and scrapbooking for years and years and years, so I have a lot of these type of scraps. So I'm just going to add some paint and pattern to them. In a minute you'll see me do something a little bit different, which is, I might be doing it right now. There we go. So what I'm doing is I'm applying acrylic paint to my wheel using one jelly plate as a ink pad, basically, and a paint pad, putting it on my wheel stamp and then rolling it onto the other one. And then I get just the pattern of the acrylic paint on the jelly plate instead of the whole background. I hope that makes sense. And then the other piece I've just put on the other piece of paper. So a good idea to do when you're doing jelly printing is to have multiple projects going on at once and just switch from one to the other like that. Just too much fun. I think I'm almost done making my extra papers, maybe. Oh yes, this was I wanted to make one of those that I was talking about earlier, the clean off prints where you put a lighter color over darker paint scraps. And I used a piece of very lightweight vellum and it didn't pull it off. All I got was white, but I didn't end up using that anyway. So it's interesting how the different textures of papers and weights of papers will make a difference. That's now on that piece of paper, which is just from the printer, I was able to pull it. So now I've got that new little thin die cuts, and I go and I make a whole bunch of snowflakes, and then I had the punch that's supposed to be flowers, but they kind of look like snowflakes. So I punched those out of the excess. Oh, before I did that, that's right. I sprayed these papers down with some Tatterd Angels spray because I wanted the shimmer. It's an interesting spray. It looks kind of white, but basically all that's left, well actually it looks light blue, but all that's left is that shimmer. But when I did this, I would not recommend doing this because that stuff curled my vellum, and I continued to struggle through all the rest of the projects I did with this. With those stupid curled vellums. It's like, oh, they were driving me crazy. Okay, now I'm back. I've got all my cutout things that I used my Big Shot to cut it out with that die cut that I got at Tuesday morning the other day. And then it has 3 different size snowflakes, 3 different patterns. And then I have a bunch more up there that are just punched out with that Stampin' Up 3 flower punch. And I'm using Deco-page or Deco-page, however you want to say it, satin medium from Decoarts. And I'm using the satin because I don't want to ruin the shimmer that I sprayed on all of those. I'm going to have to go to the fuss of using all these curled papers because I sprayed them, then I want the shimmer to show. So the satin works for that. If I'd used my matte medium, it would have dulled out all that shimmer that I added. So no on the matte medium today. This is the first one that I have trouble with. It will not lay down. It keeps popping up on the edges, and it's because the vellum is curled. Plus, it's kind of that particular vellum is a little bit heavier weight, and it's almost crackly. Like it feels like you could snap it, although you can't, but it does feel like that. So you see, I'm fussing and fussing, trying to get that to lay down. And you'll see this several more times. I'm going to speed this up, but you'll see me fussing and going crazy. The ones that were made out of the tissue paper with the print laid down beautifully. The ones that I used just the vellum that was already printed with snowflakes from Stampin' Up, that one worked great. And the bright white one that you see, that's from that small piece of very lightweight vellum that I was trying to do a cleanup print on, but it only pulled the white paint off. Those really white ones are from that. Oh, and something that I also did that you didn't see, I have a Tim Holtz, one of those embossing folders, those plastic embossing folders that has snowflakes on it. And I put some of my pieces of vellum that wouldn't stop curling through that. So some of them have embossed snowflakes in addition to the paint patterns on them, because I was trying to get those papers to lay down flat. It helped a little bit, but I don't give up. I'm the boss of these papers. They will lay down if I say they will. I like to tell myself I'm the boss of things because I really know I don't have a lot of control. So my favorite snowflake is that biggest one with the very like rounded looking pattern. I like that one a lot, so I end up using a lot of those and a few of the others. But I start with the big ones and I try to make a balanced pattern. That's something you do with stamping too. Start with the biggest thing and do a few of those and then fill in with the mediums, do a little bit more mediums, and then fill in with a lot of smalls. And that's how you can get a real balanced pattern with what you're doing. So That's also what I'm doing with my application of these snowflakes. This page turns out beautifully. I just wish the vellum hadn't been so bratty. But I wanted the translucent properties of the vellum for my snowflakes. That's the reason I used it. A few of them, as I was removing them from the dies with my pokey tool, I tore a few of them. So I still use them. I just had to put them down in 2 pieces like you saw there. Now I'm putting on the tiny ones. These are the 2 smaller flowers on that 3-flower punch. Still look like snowflakes, especially when you put them in with snowflakes. People don't say, oh, there's a flower. At least I hope they don't. I don't think they will. Looks like a blizzard. So I do end up having a few of the snowflakes left, plus I have all the pieces of that I punched the snowflakes out, and I have that roll-off page. And with all those things that were left over, I ended up making 10 Christmas cards. And there is an article about that on my blog. You can go see the Christmas cards. And my blog is linked below. It's paperoctio.blogspot. You can go see the 10 cards I made. And they're all very different and all very pretty. So now what I'm doing is popping out a few of the snowflakes. I'm not going to go around every single one, but I'm using a Faber-Castell Pit pin from my set, and the color is indigo. I didn't want black. I wanted something that coordinated a little bit with the page, but I wanted it to be dark, so I picked a very dark blue. And I'm going around and then blending with my finger, because remember that whole thing is sealed with satin medium, and so it's easy to blend. You have a few seconds to blend with your finger when you're doing this, so you don't have such a harsh line. But it does make a few of the flakes stand out, and I like that. That's pretty cool. I like it. I think you should always add shadows on everything, because it makes the thing blend into the page and also stand out. Makes the background go backwards and the things that you're shadowing go forwards. Okay, put away that pin. Now I've got my medium tip white Posca, and I'm just flicking it, and when you do that you add splatters. The ink comes out when you flick it like that, so it's an easy way to do it. Now I've got a multi-purpose fine line applicator, and it has all these different tips, and I've got one tip, it's the biggest one that is in there, and I've screwed it into the lid, and then in that bottle is light modeling paste from Prima Art Basics. And I actually got a sample from thecraftshack.com. You can get a sample size from them instead of buying the whole thing, because I was trying to decide which modeling paste or molding paste, however you want to say it, works best. And I do like this light, and I put it in the little bottle just for this purpose. I use it for this all the time. I also used my anti-static bag that you usually use for embossing, but I'm going to put glitter on this, and I don't want the glitter to stick all over everything. So in the area that I'm going to use the glitter, I put my anti-static bag over it first. I think it has like talcum powder or something in it. I'm not really sure, but it takes away any oils from your fingers and anything that might still be a little bit sticky, and of course static. Then I'm just using my light molding paste with the fine tip to write the word snow. It works really great. It's a great way to apply molding paste rather than using it through a stencil like most people do. One thing I will recommend though is to put that lid, and I will do it in water immediately, or else wash it immediately, because if you let it dry up in that tip, you're never going to get it out and you're going to be mad. So that's one of those things, either soak it or clean it right away. Now there's my it's called Dazzling Diamonds glitter. It's like iridescent glitter, clear iridescent, and it's going to stick to that molding paste and hopefully not anywhere else, because I used the anti-static bag first. Then just put the excess back in the bottle. Okay, here's where I made the mistake. I wanted to get this done, and I didn't let the molding paste dry. I just hit it with the heat tool and tried to get it dry enough, and then I wanted to do a shadow around it. And so I got out my black Stabilo All pencil, which is what I use very frequently for shadows, and my water barrel brush, and I was going along blending my black Stabilo, and the places where the molding paste was still wet, I mean the top of it was dry, but the under layer was still wet. It started wicking in the black. I was not happy. So what I ended up doing is I got some titanium white out of my Decoart media fluid acrylic, and I used a small brush and just went over the tops of my letters with the bright white to bring the white back. But I wished I would have just been patient, but that's just not my nature. I'm so impatient. I don't want to wait for things to dry. And so that's what happened, but I was able to fix it. You can always fix it. So there you have my page. I hope you enjoyed this NaNoJouMo snow page. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, share, all those things to let me know you liked it. And thank you very much for watching. And go see my friends' videos that are linked below. Bye-bye.